Hello and welcome to another video of mine once again, where I this time around want to explain the entire micro section of Age of Empires 3. So first things first, what is micro and what is macro? Micro, see it as a lens. The micro lens sees a small scheme of things, while a macro lens sees this great scheme of things. So macros usually mostly tied in Age of Empires 3 in terms of your resource distribution on spending these and your grand decision making, while micro comes down to the micromanagement of your units, be it villager micromanagement or unit micromanagement in battles. When we talk about micro, is about the ability to manage your units to the best potential as you can get. Micro will not be enabling you to win unwinnable matches. What micro is going to do, though, is to turn unfavorable matches to favorable matches thanks to the right decision making and the management of your units. So in terms of composition, there is most of the time 4 compositions that you are going to face. First is the Bog Pike composition. Second, we have the Musk Husk composition. Third, we have the most Spain-ish composition is a Musk Falk. And last but not least, probably the best considered by most players, is the Skirm Goon composition. So the general comparison is that Bowpike is losing against Muskas, and Muskas is losing against Skirm Goon. All these considered are if all players have the same amount of skill level. So first and foremost is the positioning. Positioning may be one of the most crucial points on the micromanaging part. And it comes down to the fact that if your units are mostly melee or mostly ranged units. If your units are mostly ranged units, you are mostly better off trying to fight in the choke points where melee units have issues on pathing to your units. The best example would be Falconets, since they are very high value units, which can turn their tiles in battle for the better or the worse, depending on how well you can protect them. And these are mostly useful when they are in a choke point. Something like that. So in this way, they are only really approachable from 2 sides, either from the south or the north. They're completely obstructed from the cliff here, and they're completely obstructed from the pond on the left. Which means your army can, if there is cav approaching, you can either defend it from the north or the south, and the Falk can do all the other work. Where if you have more of a range composition like this, you're mostly better off, or if you have also mobility advantage all in all, you're better off on an open field where you can utilize your maneuverability to flank your opponents or catch reinforcements. Okay, now with that being done, now we come to a few tricks that you can use to your advantage. So first there is the Snare. Snare is the ability to decrease the speed of the entire formation that a unit has. For example, if I would attack this unit over here, the Dragoon for example, it would increase the speed by a very large portion. By the entire formation. Which is why having some units in melee is very important to not let your opponent escape, which is the main use of the cavalry. Is A for raiding, B for also keeping the snare on. Should we also affect the hyena? See, if I attack the hyena, the speed gets down from 7 speed to 4.5 speed. Is this here? 4.5. Which is nearly half the speed, if you think about it. So just by melee attacking, you decrease the speed of your opponent by pretty much 50%. Then you also have another mechanic called catch-up mechanic. Which that is if you split off a few units, let's say 4, well, that's staying here, and you want to move in this direction, you can save those units by selecting all of these and giving move command to the direction you want to move into. And as you can see, they did catch up to the formation you wanted to move. And this is called the catch-up mechanic, which can be utilized in various of ways, which A being to save your units from being killed, or you can also use it for kiting mechanics, which is very often used in high-level matches, though longbows aren't the best to demonstrate it. And it doesn't have to be different units too, it can be the same unit. As long as, how the pull trick works is, as long as you have more units that you want to pull trick towards you, as you have units you want to pull trick, is they are going to move faster than that's when they're gonna catch up with. It can also work with one-on-one, but it's very unreliable. That you have one unit you want to catch up to. It sometimes does work, sometimes it does not. As they have a little bit 50-50, because sometimes it also can be that case that the front unit goes back towards the other unit. But for the different case, want to pull trick this unit to this formation, and it's always guaranteed that this move is gonna get saved. So how you can use that is you can help this when you are fighting for example units that have faster movement speed than you. For example, if this would have been a skirm with 20 range, and you would have had a unit which has 12 range, a musketeer for example, but has faster movement speed. Let's make the example with the pikes. So the pikes are moving towards you, they want to attack you, and you see that, and you move those back, and you shoot with those, you shoot and move back, then you shoot again, and you move back again. Oh wait. It's a little bit weird to demonstrate this, when you can't attack with them. Since I have not have units nearby. So the range is around there. So the longer the range, the more you can pull trick towards. So these are trying to attack you, and they'll shoot, and you see that the speed is nearly the same as the pikes. Oh, no! So weird. So to demonstrate when you can't really attack this. Okay, again. Let's have somewhere open field. So, you see the pikes, they're gonna attack you. Oh, you can shoot and pull trick them for a quite substantial time before they start to catch up. And this is even stronger when you have units with similar speed, where both units have the same speed, but different ranges, which makes you able to kite pretty much for eternity. So for example, if you have a unit, let's say you have dragoons out, dragoons and a little of musketeers, right? So in theory, when you shoot, eventually they're gonna catch up to you, which then lets them able to shoot again. However, its musketeers are approach your musketeers and your pull trick, you can essentially shoot and pull trick them again back. It's a little bit weirdly to demonstrate now because I don't have anything to attack to. But essentially it makes your units faster than the opponent's ones, and you can essentially attack indefinitely until you reach the corner of the map, which is where the pull trick is not gonna be available anymore, because there's no way you can run to. But most of the time, by the time you reach the corner of the map, the reinforcement of the enemy has been dwindled to nearly 0. And another trick is that the entire drag box. Let's make a bunch of different units, showcase that. So I have a lot of different units now. And you see the alignment of those units. It is speed over range and melee over range. The cavalry is usually in the front, followed by the pikes, followed by goons, followed by heavy range infantry, followed by light range infantry. And the artillery is usually way in the back. This is important because multiple reasons. First is when you want to pull trick, you gotta know on which direction you wanna face as when you do the pull trick. Okay, you can shoot a musketeer and then retreat. And keep pretty much the same distance. On your opponent. So back on track. The pull trick. The drag box. So there are different utilizers on the drag box themselves. First is to centralize all your units. And the second one and most important one probably being on transferring your unit from A to B. It's probably the best case scenario on bow pike compositions. So for example, if you say that there is cavalry approaching, and your pikes are in the back, guess what's gonna happen when you get the move command to the front? They're gonna walk all the way back and try to make their way through the formation. What the pull trick does is, the drag box does, is that it ignores the entire mass of units. So the fastest way is actually not to make your units move the one way and your pikes to move the other. The fastest way is actually to simply put the move command to the direction which the cavalry is facing. And you'll see clearly that the mass of units is not mattering. And this is also very important when you have a masked far composition. You often see 5 is probably too many. Mostly see 2. 2 Farks and 30 muskets is a good measurement. So you mostly see masked Falk, and the way the players most likely gonna defend their Falconets is that they put their Falconets in limber mode, make a quick pull trick, and then stop moving. That way, the Falconets are perfectly in the middle without a lot of whittling around. Since the Falconets gonna ignore the mass of the army, which means they're always gonna be perfect in the middle. It's also gonna be perfectly fine with the pikes and whatever not, but this is the most common, the 2 most common cases for the drag box. And another usage, it's, yeah, as I said, is transporting units from one point to the other. So for example, if you want to engage infantry with your falconets, which is here on the corner of the map, it is faster to project them towards the end of the formation so you can shoot immediately, rather than it is to manually put them onto this infantry mass, since it makes them to walk weirdly around it. Or if you put them in limbo mode beforehand, and they're, for example, behind your formation, and you're trying to get them towards this musketeers, you see that the pathing is really awkward. And if you do the pull trick, they're gonna automatically come to the other side of the formation, which is why the point I made earlier with the formations is very important. To know where your units are positioned at. And a few other things, which is mostly when you fight cavalry against cavalry, that I still have for you, is cavalry and cavalry fights. Where on high level, you see a little bit of a dance happening when two forces engage with each other. Sadly, can't demonstrate it on my own units. It will be a little hard, but I try my best. So what you often see me doing when I'm fighting cavalry against cavalry is when they are engaging with each other. For the sake of demonstrating, I'm gonna decrease the volume of the engagement. Where one Huss fights each Hussar, there we go. And once one Hussar is low on HP, what you can do is to move the Hussar back, and most of the time, 2 or 3 other cavalry units are going to follow that unit, while these 3 units are not going to attack. However, then you can let your other Hussars attack this Hussar which is trying to get towards this Hussar, which is lower HP. However, it still has the same attack, which is gonna be in a little bit of a snowbally effect, where if your opponent does not reselect this Hussar and put either the attack move on or menu selected, it's gonna end up him losing 3 Hussars while yours are still alive. And on the lower elo, you can even further manipulate it if there are pikes or musketeers involved and they are on melee. On lower elos, they most of the time right-click on a Hussar, and you can see which Hussars is selected on when you deselect one Hussar and see where the musketeers are moving in. If they're gonna follow just one Hussar, you know that he did not attack move. Since attack move is where each and single unit is going to attack the unit which is closest to the other side. So these musketeers would, example, attack this Hussar, while these would probably go to this Hussar because it's gonna be closer. And there's gonna be also a dance happening when you have this sort of engagement. When you are on a mass-cast composition or you are in a team battle and you are happening to fight against musketeers, usually the way to fight against it is to try to get your Hussars as close as possible to the musketeers to bait out their melee attack, the melee stance, and that's where are doing the damage. And then retreat immediately so that they have to, again, switch the stance to their range attack, which then gonna force the units to go in front of the main army, which then leaves them open for light infantry to deal the damage to get them down. And this is the same thing with the bow pike composition, which is also the main reason why Maskas does beat bow pike, which is the exact reason is that the hussars bait out the pikemen in front so they can do the damage against the hussars, which leaves them wide open for the musketeers to deal the damage, which then leaves those longmen very open for the hussars to attack too. Oh, and another thing I can show you is a neat little trick with the longmen. Let's see if we have some treasure guardians. This one, for example. Get these all the way back. Is with the longermen. Longermen usually have a very long setup animation. However, what you can do is, if you switch a target while the arrow is mid-flight, you can skip the long setup animation, so that they can maintain their rate of fire by 1.5. You saw how fast they shot, and let's make a different example on the lion, for example. Here are 2 treasure guardians. What is gonna happen is, if you switch the target with longbows while they're attacking one guardian, they're gonna have a longer setup animation while they switch their targets. It's even more valuable, not valuable, but seeable when you go for an attack move. Once I've killed a unit, they're gonna move a little bit further and then reset their setup animation to then shoot again. But you can diminish that by switching the target while the arrows are mid-air. See? However, it's mostly gonna be used on a low-scale fight rather than a big-scale fight, since you are going to have a lot of overkill damage when you focus down one unit with like 50 longbows. Overkill damage being if you do more damage to a target than it actually would have gotten. For example, if a unit has 8 hit points and you shoot with 5 longbows against this target, it's gonna die just by the perfect amount. But the target has 8 hit points and you're gonna shoot with 50 longbows. 10 longbows gonna do overkill damage. So essentially 10 shots of your longbows would have been essentially wasted. Okay, what is left? Explain Dragmouth. Oh yeah, that move and Splitfire. There are 2 different types of attacking. One is manually selecting your target and the other one is attack move. On the majority of time, it is better to attack move, because it does not have as much micromanagement. There are situations where you want to split fire. Split fire meaning that you select a few units and manually attack a unit. Most of the reason being is when a unit you want to counter, it's in the backline of the army. For example, these longbow want to focus out those pikemen. It's a very, very unrealistic scenario, but what the attack move would do is that those longbows would attack the hussars rather than the pikes that they want to focus out on. That's why you see the players frantically selecting a few and then right-clicking the pikemen. And anything else? Oh yeah, another reason being the falconets. Or any sort of artillery. Since they do have a very large multiplier against infantry, 3 times being that is. And you usually want to spread out the shots a bit, since they do a little splash damage. And there's rarely any infantry that has 300 hit points. Where you usually want to split fire. So one falconet, for example, shooting right there, and the other, for example, shooting right there. So you spread out the damage for a bit. Oh, another fun fact is that you can't mitigate the damage from fire cannons, since the shots themselves do not have tracing. Nearly all shots from infantry or any non-artillery projectile basically has 100% chance on hitting the target. So no matter where you move your target, arrow's gonna follow it. It's gonna be sometimes like a weird way, where it like goes for a weird curvy line. Which is not the case for artillery, which sometimes makes it possible to mitigate damage or even dodge covering shots if your artillery is fast enough. Which is sometimes the case with the light cannons of Haudenosaunee. And another interesting thing is that, I'm not sure if I can showcase it, the cannons themselves, the cannonballs, have still a velocity after their initial hit. So I'm gonna hit this crossbowman, and you see that the shots still bounce once. Was it unfortunate because it went uphill? I try if I can demonstrate it here on this line. Ah, I cannot. So when cannons hit their target, see that they sometimes also fly a little bit further. For example, this one. And you see the impact even. If there was a unit standing nearby this, it would have gotten damaged. Oh, you saw it here too, on the building. It hits the unit and then also hit the building for 100 damage. Which is a full half the damage than it would have done. So, if the formation is... It's always more beneficial to fight in a formation that's standing long ways, because there's possibility that the trajectory would hit another target, than it is on hitting them when the formation is long ways this way. And it sometimes can also be beneficial to fire the covering shots in the infantry line, so the bounce shot can maybe hit the artillery that may be hiding behind it. Even if it's just for 50 or 60 damage, can help a whole lot. For example, if the shot would have hit this musket here and bounce off to this cannon, it's essentially free damage on artillery. And I think that's all I have to say. Hope you enjoyed it. Sorry again for not properly displaying it, because I didn't have someone to face against. And hopping against the AI to do the thing you want them is a little bit off-putting. But I hope it was educational. I hope it was educational. Hope you learned something new. A very long video. I try to cut it down for maybe like 20 minutes, if I can. We'll see. Hope you enjoyed it, and I'm gonna see you on the next one.